Welcome to Restoring Education in America with Priscilla Rahn. She's a master educator and author, leading the conversation to restore the American mind through wisdom, virtue, and truth.
Welcome, everybody. This is Priscilla Rahn, your host of Restoring Education in America. I'm so excited that you decided to join me today. I have a very special guest, my very good friend, Mr. Cain from Task Force Freedom. Welcome to the show, Cain.
Thank you, Priscilla, for having me on with Task Force Freedom, nocode.com. That's our website.
Well, for those people who don't know what your organization is about, I'm going to share a little bit of information from your website. It says Task Force Freedom Northern Colorado is committed to defeating and eradicating the destructive and racist policies of critical race theory and social emotional learning, as well as the sexual grooming tactics being forced upon students in government schools. They prioritize the well-being and development of your children by recommending schools that uphold high academic standards and values. These schools are committed to fostering safe, supportive environments for students while providing transparency in their curriculum and resources, including a clear stance on appropriate content for all age groups. Cain, what in the world inspired you to take on this massive mission?
So several years ago, actually about 4 years ago, I was invited to a forum, I guess. And Yvonne Paez, who has an organization called Perspectives 101, invited me out. And when I get there, there's this lovely lady talking about CRT, which is critical race theory. I had no idea what that was. And she did about a 45-minute, maybe hour presentation, and it was you. And I'm sitting here going, this cannot be true. Like, there's no way educators are telling kids to view life through the prism of race. I couldn't believe it. And so at the end of the presentation, I walked up to you in the parking lot and I'm like, hey, I'm the last guy that they needed to have this knowledge because I'm a defender of the innocent. And I protect kids. And I think I told you at the time, this is not going to fly. We're going to fix this thing. Well,
yeah, I remember that conversation vividly, that we were talking about this and you were inspired, but I had no idea at the time that you were serious and were going to create this organization and run with it.
Yeah, it's been 4 years, and I thank you. It's good and kind of bad at the same time, because I think I was chosen to take up this battle up here in Northern Colorado, but it takes a commitment. There's a commitment. And there's a sacrifice. Kind of like teachers, teachers sacrifice a lot. Most people don't know that, but after starting the organization, we put together a little team, and then in the middle of the night, one night, I just got an email from I can't remember the person, and they sent me this book, 2 pages from this book called The Bluest Eye. And the 2 pages depicted a dad explicitly sexually molesting his toddler daughter. And I didn't sleep. I'm like, this cannot be true. Like, it hurt my soul, because teachers I have teachers I remember from high school. I'm like, they changed my life, and so to know that educators were doing this to kids. And I thought, okay, well, we're going to add this to our mission. We're going to attack CRT, and we're going to go after these pornographic books and materials that little kids, middle schoolers, can see. In fact, that book was in Preston Middle School there in Fort Collins.
That's amazing, because there are people who will argue and say, oh, these books are not in our schools. But as we've gone along, we've seen more and more parents and educators and even students revealing, yes, these are books that I have access to in my school that are sexually explicit and oftentimes not age appropriate or in context, because it's different when you're learning about your body and biology, right? Yes. This goes beyond a young girl going through her puberty process or young boys. This is about seeing sometimes images of acts on minor children with adults, that's inappropriate. And I don't want to be too graphic on the show, but we want to say that this is beyond what's appropriate for young children to see. And oftentimes parents don't even know that these books are in the schools.
I guess the image that a parent should have is, I think most adults have seen some type of X-rated or R-rated movie. And you can imagine a child being exposed to triple X materials. And that's what they're exposed to. If you go to our website for the school districts here in Northern Colorado, we have a list of books on our website. And you can see, if you don't believe us, you can go to the website and you can see 20, 30, 40 books, 100 books, and depending on the school district, that are right there on the website. You can look up Pooter, you can look up D6, Thompson, and it has a list of books, and it has some description of what the material's like.
If you're just now tuning in, my special guest today is Cain. He's the founder of Task Force Freedom in Northern Colorado. But what do you say, Cain, to someone who says, oh, you just want to ban books out of public schools?
Yeah. So here in Colorado, there's a case law from 85. And I think it's Covey. I can't remember the name, but the case law was challenged here in Colorado, and they decided that it's a First Amendment right to have sexually explicit material in the schools. And so you really can't remove the books. You'll get sued. You can't take them out. And so we've never advocated the removal of books. We just simply said a parent should have the right to decide whether they want their child looking at pornographic materials. That's all we've ever said.
Well, isn't that common sense?
It should be, but we don't have common sense in our schools. I truly believe there's an agenda to harm kids, to dummy them down, to make them mentally ill, so that in the future, when they're adults, they're controlled much easier.
Well, that's a big accusation, Cain, because, with critical race theory, we're just teaching kids how to understand history. And with SEL, we're teaching kindness. So that sounds very, very harsh how you're describing this movement.
I think that's hilarious, because you don't have to tell a little white kid that they're racist or they have white privilege. You don't have to tell little black kids that because this white kid that's playing within the sandbox, that's the reason why you're never going to achieve anything. It wasn't prior to the 60s, blacks and whites were almost on par with marriage, with kids. We didn't have this violent environment now.
Well, do you remember that commercial in the 70s from the United Negro College Fund that said, a mind is a terrible thing to waste. And I just remember sitting in front of the TV and that commercial would come on and I would think, my goodness, one day I'm going to go to college and I'm going to be smart. I just remembered the power of that. But that messaging has been lost lately on this generation of young people, where they've been taught that the government owes them something, that they're victims, that they have to now resegregate, that everybody's out to get them and they can't achieve, and that we still need affirmative action. It's like, we don't still need that. There was a time, I will argue, yes, there was a time that we needed affirmative action because we had systemically racist laws. But now, what's holding us back as a community from achieving whatever we want to achieve?
Nothing. There's nothing. I've had conversations with whites that it said they have white privilege. I'm like, well, tell me what that is. And they'll go and they'll have a litany of things. And I'm like, so you're saying everything you just listed, I don't have that experience?
Listen, real privilege, the true privilege is I was raised by a father and a mother who were married at the time of my birth. They were still married at the time I graduated from high school. They were there when I got married, and my father was married to my mother to the day he died a year ago. And he was an amazing provider. He was a godly man. He was in church all the time with us, and he was a leader. And that is a true privilege.
Absolutely. And so that example is what we had in the 60s. Prior to LBJ giving out that free money, we were on par with white as far as a mom and a dad. And once you remove the lion, from the family, that family, those kids, the mom, they're exposed to whatever the government or anybody else wants to harm them with. And that's what happened. And now, I mean, we were like 85% were married. Now we're down to 25%. And then you have these people running around with these men, and I hope men responsible. You got 4, 5, 6, 10 kids with 5, 10 different women. What do you think your child's going to grow up to be without a dad?
Yeah, that fatherhood piece is really critical. It's the first chapter in my book, Restoring Education in America. Go out and get it. It's on Amazon. And I talk about the importance of fathers as the foundation of every classroom. When I was grappling with how should I kick off this book? If someone only reads one chapter of my book and puts it down, what do I want them to get away from it? And it's just critical, because if we can repair that fatherlessness issue in our schools, we can fix so much that's going on with the social emotional well-being of our children, of wives, of mothers, of our community, and our church community, and our politics. We can raise young people who love their country again and feel empowered to pursue the American dream and be creative. And you and I both graduated together from leadership program of the Rockies. So we got a good dose of understanding the Constitution and the Declaration,
our history.
And our history, our true history, and what's changed in that.
So I'm pretty provocative about always identifying myself as a Negro. And when people push back, I simply ask them, was Martin Luther King wrong? Because just about every speech and all of his writings, he refers to people like me as Negro. Was he wrong? And Priscilla, we're the only race that have experienced, 5, 6 different identities, from Black, colored, Negro, African American. How confusing is that for a child to not have a foundation of who they are? And so the Spaniards took us from Africa. Africans stole my people from my tribe, took the women and kids, and put my ancestors on a boat. The Portuguese, actually, and they said they're Negro. How long do we have to be in this country before we can just be American Negroes? We've been here 400 years.
Listen, I understand your standpoint, but there are a lot of people who are conservative in America who say, I just want to be identified as an American because I've been here for generations. My family's been here for generations. So how do you respond? Because I'm sure you've gotten that.
I get it. And I always identify myself as an American first. In fact, I think you can see that I always put, I'm a proud American, and then Negro after that. I'm an American. We've been here. The American Negro has been here longer than most cultures today, 400 years. So I'm an American. I just happen to have brown skin. And the Spaniards and Portuguese said that's Negro. And so I do get pushed back. However, part of it too is I need people to accept me as a Negro so we can get past that whole. There is a racial divide in this country, and I know you feel it. When I feel it, I address it, and I tell my white counterparts, "You call me Negro, and if you can accept me as a Negro, we can have a conversation about anything." Anything.
Well, you know what, Cain? If that's how you want to identify.
Yes. I mean, you can call a man a woman.
We're not going to go there.
See?
No, we're not going to go there. Because,
Okay.
I testified at the Capitol on one of the bills where I said, Rachel Dolezal tried to convince everybody that she was Black when she's a white woman. And that's crazy. Like, so calling someone something that they're not is not okay in my book. But, if that's how you want to be identified, you're my brother.
Yes, please.
And you're a
Yes,
child of
please.
God and you're an American. And so that's all. But let's get back to, if you're tuning in, we're talking to Cain. Cain is the founder of Task Force Freedom, and we're talking everything CRT, SEL, books, book banning, which we're not doing. We're not banning books.
No.
But we are advocating for parents having more involvement, because parents have the right to know what is going on with their children. They have the right to be involved in the upbringing of their children. And as you're talking with parents, what are some of the things that you're hearing?
I'm disappointed sometimes because there are far too many parents they're just not connected with what's going on with their kids. I've told parents for 4 years now, when your child comes home from school, you need to have a conversation. What did you learn today? Did anyone try to make you feel bad because of the color of your skin? Did they make you look at another race of people and go, oh, they're not that smart? Did someone make you feel uncomfortable about you being a boy or a girl? You need to have these conversations with your kids every single day, because you don't know what day they're going to be faced with those questions and those comments. And your job is to protect your child. And so if you're not having these conversations, it's going to sneak up on you, and your Johnny's going to come home one day and go, hey, I want to be Sally, and you're not going to know why.
So on your website, you do have a list of schools that you recommend to parents. What is your process for vetting those schools?
Yeah, so we've had conversations. A lot of it comes from some of our team members that will recommend certain schools, and we'll just look into it, and we'll visit the school's website and see if there's any keywords or in their programs, like that's woke agenda stuff. And so, or we'll visit some of the schools and see what the schools are actually doing. There's one particular school here that is just amazing. It's American Legacy Academy, and probably the best charter school I've ever seen.
What do you love about them?
They have a basic foundation. They believe in the Constitution. They believe in talking about God. They talk about our founding fathers in a positive light. They're not saying these old racist white men that had slaves.
But wait a minute, they're talking about God. What about separation of church and state?
Well, those are two different things. Like I don't. First of all, I disagree with that, because it used to be religious information in schools. One of the things, just a side note, we have a team member that's trying to get Bibles put back into the libraries. So we have a couple people providing Bibles, but look at what happened to us when you remove Christ from church, from school, when you remove Bibles from school, when you remove religion from school. Look what we have. If there's no foundation, they're going to find something to grasp onto, and it ends up being some demonic stuff. So,
but is it the school's responsibility to teach Christianity?
I don't think so. I don't think it's a responsibility, but just like Muslims can come and have their experience with their religion, I think you can provide all of these books for kids. You can provide these different clubs in our schools. It's a shame that other religions can have clubs, but a Christian religion, you have to jump through hoops and sue the school just to have a club about Christianity. There's just something drastically wrong with our school system.
So what I hear you saying is freedom of religion, not necessarily freedom from religion. Let people practice whatever religion they want to practice.
That's very good. That's very well said.
You can send me a check later.
I will. Awesome.
No, because these questions do come up and people do make those arguments. I know in my school and public school, when it's Ramadan and children are fasting and praying for 30 days straight, we have to accommodate that.
Yes.
In our public schools. We can't discriminate. But my pushback is, why are you telling me I can't call a Christmas concert a Christmas concert? Like, it's a federal holiday. Yeah. But this is what I'm told a lot of times by leadership.
And it's discrimination. Just like CRT, just like DEI, it's discrimination against white people. We got to speak the truth.
But listen, Christianity is not a white religion.
Yeah,
I've heard that argument too, that Christianity is a white religion. It's like, no, it's not. It's for all people.
Yep.
Jesus Christ was a Jew.
Yep.
So
some would say he was a black Jew, but that's a whole nother story.
Well, you know what? He's my savior, and
yes,
I could care less what his
absolutely
physical earthly body race was.
Absolutely.
But these are a lot of, I think, attacks from the left that try to get us distracted on the things that are important. We're on 670 AM KLTT, which is a Christian radio station.
Yeah.
I'm surrounded by amazing pastors that are teaching the word of God.
Yeah.
And I am a Christian who happens to be an educator by profession. Those two things are embedded. Now, does that mean that I talk about God and religion in school? No, I don't. But I am salt and light, right? And I try to be a good human being and a good educator. And I try to respect parents, and I try to be a good employee and work as unto Christ and all of those things. That's really what that means for me as a teacher. And my students don't know my politics.
Right.
I don't do politics at school.
Right.
So,
and it's that light part where you don't have to disclose to others that you're a Christian. But that light will draw people to you, and they'll want to know, well, why does she have such joy? Where is that coming from? So,
yeah. Well, when we're talking about that and hope, do you have hope for the future of education?
My gosh. I was talking to a friend the other day, and I was like, hey, I go, can you feel it? And she goes, yeah. She goes, I'm getting goosebumps. I go, the change is coming. I go, there's still more suffering. I go, but the change is coming. People are waking up. People are discovering that my child was okay until 3rd grade or 6th grade, and something happened. What happened in that classroom where they all of a sudden wanted to be a girl or the opposite sex? Something happened. So people are waking up, and they're starting to push back. Our government, our federal government, is starting to push back on a lot of these things. And change takes time. And there's suffering. Unfortunately, there's always suffering before success. Always.
Yeah, I know I was inspired to write my book starting in February when President Trump signed his 2 executive orders about ending DEI and closing the Department of Education and bringing education back to the states. I'm like, that's great. Let's bring it back to the states. Local government really can do a better job than education being governed from DC.
Right.
And I know it has made a lot of people nervous that are on school boards and the Department of Education, even legislators who now they have the responsibility to make sure there are changes in that we're actually delivering on our promise to children to educate them so that they have the skills needed to pursue whatever life, whether it's college or career or family or whatever it is, that they have received a high quality, rigorous education. That's a big responsibility. I really don't know how we could have justified billions and billions of dollars into a Department of Education that really we were really out of touch with from the local level.
So I have a background in law enforcement, and I was in the military and an investigator. And to me, I look at it and go, this was planned. These folks hijacked our school system for their benefit, not to the benefit of the children, but to the benefit of the system itself, whether it was for control and demonizing white kids and victimizing Black kids, but it was done on purpose. There's so many things that we're discovering now where these systems were hijacked to control we the people. There was a song called All We Are Is Just Another Brick in the Wall. I can't remember who sang that, but it's basically saying that nobody really cares about you. We're going to put you in that little slot, and you're going to do what we tell you. We say, hold up this corner, and that's what you're going to do. And so I can get into the whole conspiracy theory stuff, but the system is broken. Our school systems are broken. So-called good people are who's supposed to protect kids and educate kids. They're broken, and they need to be removed. I like vote them out, not harming people, but we have a system that our government set up for us where we don't have to go to war again. We just vote. And parents, moms, dads need to learn about what's going on in your school system, in your school district. And if they're not in line with what you have for your kids, vote them out of office. Go to the school board and tell them to their face, you are going to go away. Me personally, I will walk the whole city to make sure people know what you've done to kids. These kids will, listen, this pornography thing, these kids will be harmed for the rest of their life. As a police officer, the majority of streetwalkers, prostitutes, they were exposed to sexual content at a very young age. They were not ready for that. And so they became hypersexual as young adults, and they ventured over into the sex trade. And I'm not saying all kids today are going to do that. I'm simply saying if you're exposing a child to pornography and they're in middle school, they are not ready for that. They're not.
Well, Cain, I'm looking at the time and I can't believe we need to land our plane right now. Tell people where they can find you.
So we're at taskforcefreedomnoco.com. You can go on. It's an awesome website. Just take 30 or 40 minutes and tour the website. You can see a lot of content. And then the other thing I would ask you is to vote. Vote like you've never voted. We have probably another 3 or 4 voting cycles to turn all of this around, but it takes mom and dads to get out and vote and get your neighbors to vote these people out of office.
Thanks again for joining me today, Cain, my good friend, and to my listeners. Catch me next time. And remember, educating the mind without the heart is no education. So seek wisdom, cultivate virtue, and speak truth.
Thanks for tuning in to Restoring Education in America with Priscilla Rahn. Visit PriscillaRahn.com to connect or learn how you can sponsor future episodes to keep this message of faith, freedom, and education on the air.